but if you want your labor to progress, you just kind of have to surrender to it. Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Anna, and I'm going to share with you my unmedicated, natural birth story where I labored at home. This is my second unmedicated birth. The first birth I was unprepared for, very unprepared for. And this birth I was actually quite prepared for. So at the end of this video, I will tell you the difference between the two and how I prepared myself for this, which I feel like actually helped me get through this quite well. I was 41 weeks and 5 days when I finally gave birth, and those last few weeks I basically inhaled birth stories. I read Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. I don't know if you've read that book. If you're a mama-to-be, you might want to get that. I will link it below, but I inhaled birth stories. I watched birth story videos. They were very helpful. I hope my story is helpful for you and you can get some value out of it. And now I'll get started. So it was Monday, May 31st, Memorial Day, and I woke up around 4:30 in the morning, couldn't go back to sleep, so I got up as I normally do when I can't sleep. I wrote in my journal just to kind of get out of the room, and I wrote about my little boy, and I said I hope that he is going to be happy and, you know, all these warm fuzzy things that I wanted for him. And I wrote about my labor and delivery, which I will share later because I basically manifested my birth. I'll give you that at the end. So I wrote in my journal, I got a little sleepy again, went back to bed, woke up around 7, and I was having mild contractions. Now, this would normally be an alarm for most people, but I had already had 2 days where I'd had full-on contractions, back pain. I thought I was going into labor. I had them all night, only to have the next morning come and they all go away. So those 2 times I had told my husband to stay home from work. I'd got my mom prepared, you know, alert the soldiers, like everything. So I was basically the grown-ass woman who cried wolf at this point. So when I woke up with mild contractions, I was not surprised. I was like, oh, well, here we go again. I have contractions, but they'll probably go away by lunch. Now, a little backstory here. This is a little bit ironic because at 24 weeks, I went to have a routine ultrasound because my baby had had a cyst on his brain and they wanted me to come back to see if it was still there. It wasn't, thank goodness, but they noticed that my cervix was short and they sent me to the hospital where they told me that basically my baby was going to fall out of my vagina. That was not what they said, but that's basically what the message was that they relayed to me. So scared me half to death, put me in the hospital for 3 days, put me on strict bed rest, and told me to get ready to have a preterm baby. It was a very scary time, and I changed doctors because if you do any kind of research, by the way, I'm not a doctor, this is just what I did. If you do any research, you look at Mayo Clinic, there's no hard evidence that strict bed rest really helps anybody or even keeps a baby in. So I changed doctors. I went to be with the midwife that delivered my last child. In any case, it was very ironic that I was 41 weeks, 5 days, and scheduled to be induced the next day. So back to the Monday of May 31st, I'm having mild contractions. I tell my husband to go on his way, and where he was going would be going 2 hours away to drop my daughter off with my parents so that she could stay there while we went to the hospital to be induced the next day. By the time I was up and getting coffee and kind of having breakfast, my mild contractions were less mild and getting a little bit stronger, but still, I mean, I'd already had this before, so I was like, bye, have fun, I'll see you this afternoon, you know, I'm sure everything will be fine. So one thing to note here is that at my last doctor appointment at 41 weeks, or 41 in 1 day, something like that, I was 5 centimeters dilated. You want to get to 10 centimeters, and people go into labor at less than 5 centimeters. People go into labor at 2 and 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters maybe. 5, you're kind of a ticking time bomb. So that being said, you know, it's really not unlikely that I would go into labor at this point. Plan that day was to go to my store and check on things and see if there's anything I needed to do or get done before, you know, my induction the next day. So I just continued with that plan. I got dressed, I got in my car, and I was having contractions, and they were pretty consistent as well. This voice of reason, which is very tiny in my brain, came up and said, Anna, you need to turn around and go back home. But I decided not to listen to that voice because who does that really? So I continued on my way and stopped by Starbucks because, you know, if I was going to be induced the next day, I wanted to enjoy another vanilla sweet cream cold brew while I still could, because you don't really do that when you have a newborn baby. You don't go to Starbucks, you stay at home. So that was my last chance. So I went to Starbucks having contractions and got my Starbucks sandwich and the iced coffee, and I continued on my way. So I get to my store, I get in there, and I was having straight up contractions at this point. I mean, stopping me in my tracks. I did not feel safe anymore not being home. This was a dumb idea. So I get on the phone with my doula. I tell her, I think this is really it. I'm having contractions. I call my husband. I say, you gotta turn around. You gotta figure something out. You gotta come back. He was already an hour and a half down the road at this point. I have a few contractions at my business, and then I leave and get in my car. And on the 20-minute drive home, I had about 5 contractions. And it sounds very dangerous, I know, but luckily it wasn't like, I could still handle them, I guess you could say. It wasn't like debilitating, but the last contraction, I had to stop at the stop sign that I was at and just get through it. And then after that was done, I had to get myself home. So when I get home, I get to my birthing ball. Now, just a side note here, my first birth, my water broke in the middle of the night, and I had to go to the hospital, and I basically had to do all my labor at the hospital, plugged up to machines, random people walking in, you know, they want you to be like heart monitor and all that stuff on there. And I did not want that this time. I really did not want that. And so even scheduling the induction, I remember sitting, it was the day before this all happened, and I remember just sitting there thinking about it and just saying out loud, I don't want to labor at the hospital. I want to labor at home. Like, I really want to labor at home. This is what I want. And I was just saying to whoever would listen, I want to labor at home. So I get home, I get on my birthing ball, and there's one position that I spent most of the last few weeks of my pregnancy in, which is the only position that really made me feel comfortable and made me not have pain, was basically spread eagle and leaning over my birthing ball on my forearms. So I got in that position, and that felt really good. I turned on a playlist, listened to some music. My doula was asking me if she should come over yet, and I said, no, I just kind of want to be in my own space right now. I process a lot of things internally. I just wanted to be kind of with myself and my dog, because he was there too. So I labored on my birthing ball, then I started getting nauseous, which is no surprise, and I labored on my bathroom floor for a while, on my forearms with my butt in the air. That actually felt kind of good, and I just stayed there and was kind of a little nauseous. I worked my way downstairs. I was talking to my doula. She was kind of listening to me go through my contractions, and she said, I'm going to come over. I need to get ready. I'm going to come over to your house. And I said, okay. So I am still a little bit nauseous. I'm standing in front of my toilet, kind of wondering if I'm going to throw up or not. I didn't. And my water breaks all over the floor. So I am having some real contractions at this point. My husband calls me to check on me and asked me if I was hungry and I wanted anything to eat. And I said, no, I'm not hungry. Just come on. My surges were getting pretty intense at this point, and to the point where I was making some animal noises when I had them, and that was okay. It helped move things along. By the time my doula gets to my house, I am in the throes of labor and surges and having all the things. And I had a towel following me around so my water was not breaking all over my house. That was fun. I started to get back pain, and I started to get back labor. So my first pregnancy, I had back labor, which I had never even heard of. You should look that up. And just make sure you know what that is, not to scare anybody, but it is quite painful. It's just really terrible back pain that doesn't go away. So your surges will go away, back labor just stays. I started getting that, and I had done everything under the sun humanly possible to avoid having back labor in this pregnancy. I will say that it wasn't even remotely as bad as my first pregnancy or my first labor, but I still had it. So that means that your baby has turned where he's sunny side up and his little head is pressing against your spine. So you're having surges, which, come and go, and then you have back pain, which kind of just stays there. It's super fun. It doesn't happen to everybody though. It really doesn't happen to a lot of people, I think. So my doula had me do some inversions, and I had a few surges doing, upside down inversions, which I had done a lot of those at home anyway. And it did surprisingly feel good to do that. So I was inverted for a couple of my surges. That kind of helped. My dog was by my side the whole time, probably wondering what the heck was going on, or maybe he intuitively knew. I'm not sure, but he didn't bark. He was just very sweet and very concerned. It was very sweet. So at this point, my husband walks in. He realizes that things have gotten real, that no, I do not want a sandwich. I want to have a baby. My doula kept asking me, are you ready to go to the hospital? Do you want to? Trying to feel me out. Also trying to gauge whether we needed to go there. And I just kept saying no, 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 because in my head, I just knew that getting in that hot car and traveling to the hospital and having to deal with all of that, I was just going to vomit everywhere. I just felt like I was. And I was just like, let me just not do that yet. Let's just stay here as long as humanly possible. At some point, my doula said, I think we need to be a little conservative though, because this is your second pregnancy and things could progress really fast and we want to be at the hospital when that happens. So I said, okay. I told my husband in all my, stuff to go walk our dog so that he could be okay for a while, since we were going to the hospital, probably wouldn't be back for a while. And we got ready to go to the hospital. I got my hospital bag. I was in my little dress that I had picked out to labor in, which, I highly recommend, by the way, instead of putting on one of those hospital robes. And we go get in my husband's car, literally on his seat, on my knees, and I'm like throwing my body over the back side. It was very awkward, and his car would not start. So that was fun. His car would not start. I'm in labor. So I said, well, let's go get my keys and we'll go in my car. We get there and we get into the lobby just in time for me to have another surge, which I was fully making animal noises at this point. Zero what's given. I did not care because things had gotten real. So that was around 1:15 or so. We get to a room at the hospital and they check me and I'm 8 centimeters dilated. They hook me up to the baby monitor. I don't even ask, but I just crawl on the bed, and the bed was kind of, like the back was up like this, and so it was kind of like this. So I got on my knees and just threw myself over the back of the bed. That was the only position that really felt okay for me at this point. I just didn't want to do anything else but that. So I stayed that way. I had my arms like this, and I just had my surges. So because I had watched all these birth stories and I had read so much about progressing my birth, I was so in tune with my body. I don't know how else to explain it, but I was just very aware of all my thoughts and everything going in my body. And it's like at the same time that I was experiencing all of this, somehow I was amazed at my body for what it was doing. Now, I did have several times in this particular scenario where I was telling myself, why in the heck am I doing this with no medication? What in the world is wrong with me? Why am I doing that? But I had really strong reasons for not wanting an epidural. I had those two thoughts at the same time. Why did I not choose medication? I don't want an epidural, and here's why. I also at the same time had remembered from all of this reading and the research I had done that your body really knows what it's doing. And so you can kind of resist these contractions and these surges, and you can try to hold yourself and tighten yourself up. But if you want your labor to progress, you just kind of have to surrender to it. And when you surrender to it, I mean, you surrender to it, and noises come out of your mouth that you did not know that you could make. But I truly believe that progressed my labor quite fast, because at this point it's around 1:30 or so, and things started getting real around 9:40-ish in the morning. So we're not talking about a huge long time here. Also, during those surges, I was saying my mantras that I had practiced over and over, the main one being, my body knows what it's doing. My body is strong. My body is made to do this. It knows what it's doing. And so I would say this to myself as I was going through these surges, and it was just kind of allowing me, or helping to allow me to just let it happen and let it progress and let it move, instead of tensing up and holding it all in, which in turn would not progress your labor. So I remember letting my body do its thing. I remember feeling my uterus just in there doing its thing. I I'm literally so amazed by this. I'm amazed at our bodies and what it all can do. I can look back and actually really appreciate that. Earlier in my labor, my doula and my husband had tried to help me by kind of massaging my back or put their hands on my back or something, and I was like, ugh, get away from me. I don't want anyone touching me. That's very normal, and that's how I felt. But at this point, I wanted my husband to massage my back, kind of my lower back, and so I got him to do that. And that actually helped. I don't know if it really actually helped or it just the touch or something was kind of just making me feel better. So things are progressing as far as I know. My nurse over here is saying, you know, don't push. You're not ready to push. Well, my uterus said differently, and my uterus was saying, yes, it is time to push. I want to push. And again, I was kind of going with this train of thought of my body knows what it's doing. I'm just going to let her do her thing. And if she wants to push, I'm going to push. And I said, my body wants to push. And so they got the midwife back in there to check me, and she said, let's push. But I looked over and I said, really? It's time to push? I was so excited. I mean, I was so excited. This was the home stretch. We're about to be through this, and let's go. So midwife gets down there. Thank goodness for her. She let me deliver this baby literally on my knees and over the back of the bed. She did not make me turn around and lay on my back. So she got in some weird position to, you know, help me push the baby out. So she was doing the whole thing, you know, count to 10, push, telling me what to do, which I appreciated. But about midway through that, I just was having so much confidence in my own body, and I started pushing when my body wanted to push. And I felt the head starting to come out. I don't remember feeling all this with my first birth, but my second one, I definitely felt the head, his little head coming out. I didn't have back labor anymore, which was a sure sign that he was about to pop out. But then he got stuck. That's the number one thing you don't want to happen when you're trying to push a baby out of your body, is for him to get stuck. So turns out he had his little hand up like this, and he got a little bit stuck. So I just continued pushing, and according to my husband, I pushed and he flew out. So he flew out. The midwife caught him. I was only pushing for, we're not really sure, but it couldn't have been more than 30 minutes, if even that. Baby flew out. I'm still like this, and I'm like overwhelmed with this, what just happened here. They passed the baby under my legs, tandem to me, and I'm like, just, you know, I was literally just doing all these things a minute ago, and now I have zero pain, and I'm just kind of overwhelmed with all the things going on. They passed the baby to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a baby right now in my hands. I turn over, I stick my foot in a whole bunch of blood, and then I have my baby in my arms, and I'm 100% pain-free. Literally, you know, it just goes away. It's really incredible. You have the baby and all the pain just goes away. So we had to deliver the placenta, no big deal. She did have to stitch me up. I had 2nd-degree tears. Again, no big deal, really. It sounds crazy, but it's just, they're doing it while you're sitting there looking at your new child. So you're in love, and it's very special. And it was an incredible moment, and I looked in his little eyes and I said, hi, I'm your mommy. So I did want to tell you the difference between this birth, this unmedicated birth, and my first unmedicated birth. My first unmedicated birth was 5.5 years ago. So my daughter is 5.5. And at that time, I knew I wanted to do an unmedicated birth. I actually can't remember my reasoning for it, except that I had just had different friends and people tell me that they had an epidural and then they had back problems and, you know, it didn't work, or, you know, you're just sitting there and you have a longer recovery or whatever the case may be. So I don't remember my reasons for that first pregnancy, why I wanted unmedicated birth, but that was my plan. I didn't really know how to prepare for it, and I just didn't know what to expect. So I kind of winged it, I guess you could say. My first pregnancy, I was very into working out. I did a Tough Mudder, I did a 10K, I ran the morning that I gave birth to my child, and I think I got through that unmedicated birth by pure will and just, you know, strength or something. I don't even know what. I'm not sure how I got through that, because it was just very shocking to go into that and then not really having a clear idea of what to expect. No one can really prepare you for birth until you've actually been through it. But I mean, I was just not prepared. I did not prepare myself very well. I did get through it, thank goodness. But this next one, absorbed everything I could about what to do, how to manage pain, how to exercises to do before going into labor so that things would be easily delivered. I saw a chiropractor, I saw an acupuncturist. I mean, I did all the things that I could think of to do to help myself have this go smoother. And one of the things is really read about other birth stories and just how much your body knows what to do. I got clear on a few mantras that I would have in my head, and one of them was, my body can do this, my body knows what to do, I am strong, you know, mainly my body knows what to do. My body was made to do this. So the mantras and just really being clear on how, you know, strong my body could be and how strong it was already helped me so much. The other thing that I think really helped prepare me for this labor was to really work with my birthing ball and get to know what positions felt good to me. So my first labor, I did not do that. And so when I was at the hospital and I had back labor and I was going through surges, I didn't have any of those things in my toolkit. And I did have a doula, but I don't know what happened, but I basically was in the fetal position a lot of the time. And this time I knew what felt good to me. I knew what position felt good. And so it was kind of like a natural thing. I didn't really have to think about it to get into that position and really know that this is where I want to be. Telling myself that, you know, my baby was coming out and this is the end result of this would be meeting my baby, help me get through the pushing where I got stuck, which was not comfortable. And that helped me because I said those kind of things to myself. I'm about to meet my baby. All I got to do is push a couple more times and I will meet my baby. And when I said it like that, like, I got to push a couple more times. Like, you know, I can do this. I know how to do this. I was able to do it and get to the end of all this. So the part about me manifesting my birth, I wanted to share this because I thought this was really strange. But during my pregnancy, I remember specifically saying this to my dad on the phone when he was, you know, like, are you feeling labory today? And I said, no. But I remember telling him, you know, I really want to have a good night's sleep. I want to wake up, I want to have my coffee, and then I want to go into labor and I want to have the baby quickly, and I want to have him during the day. So these are very specific, but this is what I wanted. And I didn't even say it with the intention of manifesting this. I just was saying that this is what I really wanted. Like, that would be my ideal labor and delivery if I could have him during the day. It wasn't the middle of the night, which is when most babies kind of decide to show up. And that is how I'd want to start my day. I like to have coffee in the morning. I really like to have Starbucks coffee in the morning. That was my indulgence in my last few weeks. I went to Starbucks quite a bit, and right now I can't even think of Starbucks. It just sounds terrible to me, which is very strange, but I think I overdid it. So I wanted to have coffee. I wanted to just, you know, this is the way I want it to happen. And that is exactly what happened. So I had this baby at 2:14 p.m. in the middle of the day. So we basically had the whole afternoon to breastfeed him, to get kind of familiar with him, kind of get our ducks in a row. You know, we went to sleep that night. We actually kind of slept decently that night with our newborn baby because, you know, he really wanted to sleep at that point. And even though I had to wake up to feed him and everything, it was just like, wake up, feed, stick him back down, and here we go. Now, my first baby, I had a super hard time breastfeeding. I mean, didn't know what I was doing. She was not latching well. It was kind of miserable, to be honest. And I had also not wanted that to be another scenario for my second baby. So I made sure to see the lactation consultant in the hospital. I was asking the nurses, like, tell me if this is right. Let's fix this. Let's get on this. And luckily he did come out and he actually latched okay. We've still had some issues, still got some sore things going on here. But we're doing okay in that department, which is a huge reason why I feel like my after birth postpartum experience has been a lot better. So I hope that was informative, or it helped somebody if you've even gotten this far in my birth story. And if you are trying to do an unmedicated birth, I think that's amazing. And I think that there's nothing wrong with getting an epidural. There is nothing wrong with any kind of childbirth, whatever way you choose to do it. And if you decide in the middle of your labor that you need an epidural, there is literally nothing wrong with that, especially if you're in labor for like 24 hours or something. I have friends that had planned to do natural or planned to do unmedicated, and then they were in labor for so long, they were like, I gotta get some sleep. And I I would be in the same position. I would be in the same way. So I do highly recommend doing things that can help your body make the labor move along. I do think that the acupuncture and seeing the chiropractor helped get everything ready to go. And I think it actually may have moved me in the direction of 5 centimeters before I actually went into labor, which was helpful as well, to start at 5 instead of starting at like 2. So I do recommend things like that. But of course, you have to do what you feel comfortable with. But all you really want in the end is a healthy baby. So if you get that way, another way, then so be it. Just be happy that you did it. But know that your body can do this stuff. Your body is beautiful and it can do all these things, and it can do it without anyone's opinion. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this birth story. I don't do birth story things on my channel. I talk about, fashion and outfit ideas. But if you would like to stick around, I would love to have you. If you like that kind of thing, I hope you enjoyed this, and good luck to you.